We've seen quite a nice day on Friday with regards to the equity market. We also saw volumes and turnover increasing quite significantly. The question is, can we maintain that positive momentum on the fresh start to the trading week?
Thank you. Last week we saw quite a significant activity in the market. Basically, some of the counters, we saw mainly 3 or 4 counters that actually contributed to the increase in demand, particularly Kenya Power, KCB, Equity Bank, and a bit of Kabasid. This week, I think we may see a bit more activity coming in, particularly on those counters. Things like KCB, I think we may see a bit more demand coming in for KCB and a bit of equity. And also looking at the counters that are actually closing their books this week, particularly National Bank, a bit of Standard Chartered, paying quite heavy dividends. And we've actually seen a lot of foreign activity coming in the past week. So definitely this week we may see more robust activity in the market.
You mentioned the likes of Standard Chartered and other banks also closing their books up this coming week. Of course, it is a big dividend paying stock. Dividend yield currently sitting at 4.31%. You were talking about foreigners coming in and trying to make good on that dividend, so reaping the rewards of that dividend. Do you expect that after this week that we could see a bit of pressure after we see investors, foreigners coming into the stock specifically?
Definitely, every time we see foreign activity on the counter, particularly on the buy side, there's so much upward potential on the stocks. For example, we saw things like KCB moving from levels about 24 to about 24.50, basically being driven by the foreign demand on these counters. But we're actually seeing the same thing happening on a few counters on the margin. Things like Equity Bank trading at levels of 24.75 up to 25.25. Driven by foreign demand. Same thing we may expect with Standard Chartered in line with the dividend of what, 8 shillings and 50 cents. We're actually seeing investors actually taking safe haven stocks whereby you're looking at the dividend gain in the future. And I think we may see some robust activity on these particular banking counters in this week.
Well, looking at the safe haven status of some of these dividend yielding stocks, we're looking at the financial sector in particular. Do you think that financial sector is going to be the name of the game going forward this year, given the fact that we have seen the resumption of earnings coming through far stronger and far better? But then that said, costs are still a very big issue. We're looking at margins going forward and also loan book growth. Do you think that that is then going to start feeding through into investor sentiment when it comes to financials?
Yeah, I think we may see a bit of more demand for financial sector stocks. One thing, if you're looking at the earnings, you actually expect the earnings to actually improve quite significantly. If you're looking at the first quarter, which ended last week or the 31st of March, we actually expect banks to actually be able to post more in terms of results, in terms of other incomes, in terms of trading in forex gains. That we may see a bit of activity on banks. Then also we're actually seeing banks actually cutting down on their cost. Barclays actually cut about 500 staff. We're actually seeing KCB has actually enlisted consultants to actually help them to cut down on reduce on their staff cost. Same thing is happening to most of these counters. Equity Bank, NIC Bank, same thing is happening. But yet again, we're seeing, in fact, I saw something on the news that HFCK has actually been able to actually gotten a license to actually operate on current accounts, thereby increasing its deposit, and therefore we may see it increase its loan book in the current future. So definitely good for banks.
KenolKobil on Friday also had a fantastic day, and most investors are anticipating a rights issue. At least that's what's been heard on the ground. Is this going to be overall positive for KenolKobil? Do you think it's going to dilute the share further?
Definitely, if you have a rights issue, we may see a dilution in the share stock. But yet again, on the back of the performance last year was actually quite impressive for the organization. Even though it had problems earlier with the Kenya refinery, Kenya Petroleum Board, but if you're looking at in terms of income and how much profit they made, they're actually looking quite good. I think they're looking at raising funds to actually expand their business, not only in East African market, but to expand to other markets. We actually saw them going into Ethiopia, going into Rwanda, and I see they may actually increase their business in these markets. So definitely we may see a bit of activity on this particular stock, noting that it's also trading with a dividend of about 52 cents. So definitely we may see a bit of demand on on the counter.
Amos, what are your stock picks for the week? I mean, we spoke about the financial sector getting a lot of the limelight in the coming week. Would you be picking specific stocks in the sector, or are you looking elsewhere for some value this week?
Apart from the banks and the financial sector, we're actually looking at the industrial industry. We're actually seeing counters like Athi River Mining, a lot of demand coming in for Athi River Mining. Friday we saw it actually trade at levels of about 174, 172, which was actually a high for it. Definitely we may see demand on that particular counter, a bit of Kenyan, a bit of Kenya Power with the prices actually coming down below 21. We may see some demand for it. Again, we saw Jubilee Insurance. We may see some activity on that counter. Profits up by 155% from 700 to about 1.5 billion, which is actually quite impressive for the industrial, for the insurance sector. So we may see some demand on those particular counters.
With regards to the Kenyan shilling, we're seeing the US dollar gaining around 0.4% against the local currency. Are you looking towards the currency in terms of any direction when it comes to sentiment and, of course, dollar demand coming to the fore as well? And we know that the corporate sector is very much linked to where we see the currency moving.
Yeah, definitely towards the end of the month we saw a bit of the corporate demand on the dollar, thereby actually strengthening the shilling a bit. Down, I think came down to the levels of about 82. Right now it's sitting at levels of about 83 shillings. We may see it hold at those levels between 83 and 84. Not only that, fuel prices are still up. Inflation is still up in Kenya. Food prices, fuel prices going up, still going up. Therefore, we may see a bit of pressure on the shilling. But I expect it to actually, central bank is intervening. We may actually see it hold at levels about 83, 82, 83.